Hey guys, how's everyone doing? I just bought a brush. I just became a big girl with long hair and actually bought a brush because my hair is naturally curly and I usually don't brush it. So before I came on, I was like, I need to brush my hair. And then it got kind of close to noon. So I'm just gonna wait for everyone to hop on. Once you hop on, say hi, let me know that you're here. Let me know that you can see me, you can hear me, you're ready to learn. Because we are about to talk today all about my transition from caring way too much what other people thought of me, my transition for caring way too much about obviously curly hairs that I have growing up out of nowhere. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, this is just all about, hey Jessica, hey Ashley. This is literally just all about how I transitioned from caring way too much about what other people thought of me. And then, shifting into actually just being my own person and understanding who I am as a person. I just got out of the shower with wet hair too. Yay! It's not just me. Okay. So there's common themes that I see with people when it comes to caring too much. And I want to talk about the themes that I had and what I was going through. Hey, Danelle. I love that name, Danelle. That's so pretty. So when I first started my journey, learning about, my spiritual gifts and all those things, I was very heavily into this caring way too much what other people thought of me. I grew up in the Bible Belt, so to talk about having spiritual gifts was already a big no-no. But I just knew that so long as I hid my gifts, they would never grow and I would never learn to trust myself the way that I needed to. And I think a lot of people go through this, when they're trying to get into spiritual, living a spiritual life, right? Because living a spiritual life is different than actually just going along with what everyone else is saying. And for the longest time, I had this deep rooted fear, that everyone would judge me and everyone would forsake me and that no one would understand me. And truly what was going on there was that I didn't accept me. I wasn't understanding me. I wasn't making myself the priority. So of course no one else did, right? And so I projected all this stuff onto everyone else and I made them the bad guys and me the victim. And I think a lot of that happens with people when they're caring way too much what other people think of them. Truthfully, what they're doing is they're projecting their own insecurities onto other people and saying that it's other people who are going to judge them. The truth is, guys, when you step into your truth fully, I told this to a client the other day, I'm people can't make me mad even if they tried. That's just the truth because there's nothing that so forsaken, Jessica, forsaken is it's a biblical term. I think it's God forsake you or something like that. It's pretty much just where they just cut you off. So I was really scared that everyone in my life would cut me off, that everyone in my life would think that I was this big bad person. And truthfully, the truth is that I was harboring all those feelings towards myself. I didn't understand myself. I didn't allow people to get to know the real me because I didn't know the real me, right? And so that's no worries, Jessica, I know what you meant. That's a big thing, right? When we're trying to understand going from caring too much about other people to being our own person, a huge part of that work is identifying all of the responsibility that we have in every situation, right? All of the authority that we have in every situation and all of the things that go into that, right? So you have this authority, and when you take your power back, it's truly understanding that everything in the world is attracted to you from how you're being, right? Not who you think you are, not who you want to be, but how you're being in the present moment. That's why I tell everyone, hey Ashley, that's why I tell everyone in the present moment, you are the most powerful, right? In the present moment, you are the most powerful. And what happens when you have this you care too much about what other people think, truly what's going on there, the theme that's going on is you're not valuing yourself enough. You're not valuing yourself enough as an individual. And this has a lot to do with the term sovereignty, right? So sovereignty basically just means that we all came here with our own purpose, with our own connection to spirit, right? God, whoever you want to call it. And then at the same time, we are able to connect on our own. Like, we all have our own unique connection. And it's the same thing, like, we have to understand that when we're stepping into our truth, right? When we're stepping into our truth, this, like, attitude of, like, you know, oh, everyone's gonna judge me, you know, like, caring way too much about what people think is your way, like, your subconscious way of staying stuck. You know, like, during that time in my life, right, like, I was constantly seeking for approval from other people. And the only reason why you ever seek from approval for other people is because you don't approve of yourself, or you don't see the value in your situation. So for me, I didn't see the value in my own understanding of who I was, because all I had ever seen were people who, you know, didn't truly understand themselves, and they needed guidance from other people but didn't want to take it. So I took that and I morphed it into this idea that I needed everyone's guidance. I needed to take everyone's guidance into consideration so that I wouldn't fall astray like the people I had seen before when I was younger. And once that happened, it was like I was having to poll every person around me. Every person around me was telling me things that they would do, how they would do it, what they would think I should do. And at the end of the day, I was still left feeling empty. And I was still left feeling like, well, like, what I truly want, this person says isn't important. This person says it's not realistic. This person says, you know, I can do whatever I want to, but I should go bigger, you know, and I'm just trying to understand myself. So it was hard for me to say, like, okay, you know, taking that step power back, right? First, I had to identify, like, and the biggest shift that happened for me was identifying how every single person that I was blaming for, like, me not being my own individual sovereign person, like, right, caring too much what other people will say, I was the one placing value and giving them that, like, permission slip to tell me what to do. I was the one saying that, like, you know what, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to understand what I'm doing. I'm not good enough to trust in my own abilities. I'm not good enough to whatever, right? Like, it's always this idea that we're not good enough. And what I had to do was understand, like, okay, a part of me knows now that other people are a reflection of what's going on in me. But then the second part that had to happen was, like, I had to start making mistakes. You know, like, I had to start making mistakes. I had to get okay with making mistakes. So many people have this idea that, like, oh, I need to be perfect in order to do something, in order to be my own person, I need to be perfect. Like, no, like, you're not going to be perfect ever. Like, you may have your moments where you truthfully embody, like, your soul, right? Like, you have the moments where you're standing in your power, right? But where we are right now isn't a place to be perfect. You know, it's not the place that thrives off of that. We can strive, right? Like, we're always growing, we're always expanding, we're always getting better, right? But there will still be areas in every aspect of our life, even the aspects of our life that we think we have down, that we can still grow, you know? And taking failure, like, that word even out of your vocabulary, and just choosing to live your life, you know, like, choosing to experience. That's, like, a huge thing, you know? Like, we're so scared of experiences, but once you get your feet wet, right? Like, once you get your feet wet and you try and you fail a couple times, you get back up and you learn something each time, right? But the biggest key factor that most people miss here is that they start to judge themselves. You know, like, you make a mistake and then you judge yourself for the mistake that you made. You know, you go into this path of, like, okay, let me just experience life, right? And then you start to judge yourself for the experience that you have, and it kind of, like, cuts the cord to, like, the lesson. It's almost like if you, like, your lesson was like a water hose. Judgment just kinks that water hose. Because what it's saying, it's like you're trying to cut off the flow, like, of life, I guess you could say, right? By judging yourself for the mistake that you made, when truthfully, from every single mistake you've made, you've learned so many valuable lessons. So, like, my sister, she's going to cosmetology school, and she has like a test coming up. It's her final board, right? And she told me, she's like, Sissy, I was so unprepared today. I don't know what to do. And I just, like, told her, I was like, Ashley, wouldn't you rather bomb this one so that you learn, like, what exactly you need, so that whenever you go into the actual board, like, you're so prepared? And, like, some people would look at that and be like, April, that's terrible. Why would you say that? But the truth of the matter is, it's tried, tested, and proven. Like, if you go into something thinking that you're in the first spot, right? Thinking that you're the shit, thinking that you can do whatever, there's this growth that doesn't happen from there, and it almost creates like a stagnation. Like, if you've ever seen any type of like Survivor or like any type of show, a good one example is like, have you ever watched The Four, where like the 4 people battle it out for like so many episodes, and then like all the 4 best people have to battle one another, and like the girl who was on top was like the Zelda girl or Zeta or whatever her name was. It like started with Zavia or something like that. Javia was her name. Her name was Javia. And craziest name, right? But everyone loved her. And she was like on top for forever. But then it was like that peak left, right? And then it was like that learning point. And she actually didn't even end up winning. Like, she actually didn't even go to like the last 2 people. And the reason why is because she had this like, you know, she was going up and up and up. And where it's like she was eventually like getting to that point where she was like, okay, I'm good, I'm comfortable. But what does that do to you? Like, when you're good, when you're comfortable, that's just like stagnation happens, right? But that's also just like the way life works too. You know, like, we're always getting better, and then we have to learn something. We have to regress a little bit. We have to go deep into like whatever's coming up for us, and then we come back out on top. Like the Zavia girl, I'm sure she's gonna get like a record deal or whatever, right? But she just didn't win the show. And so it's the same thing with like us when we're experiencing life. We judge ourselves so harshly for the regression. But you can ask anyone, like any deep work that they've done, any like deep feeling of like, oh my God, I have to work on this, it needs to get better, has sent them like skyrocketing high, because it's like, okay, you understand that that's where you are and that's not where you want to be. That's what we have to realize with life. It's like when we get like so judgmental on ourselves, we cut that flow off. If we lose the lesson, and then we just stay in this like victim mentality. We stay in this like, woe is me. We stay in this idea that, you know, the world's out against us, when really it's not. We're just like judging the process, and by judging it, we're actually cutting off that lesson that was there, right? If we would continue just to move, if we would look at our failures as an experience instead of a failure, right? If we would choose not to judge ourselves and like to truly love ourselves the way that we're meant to, right? Like, think about all the love that you give to other people, you know, like all the love that I was giving to other people, it was like I was giving it to so many other people, but I wasn't receiving the love, and I wasn't giving that love back to myself either, right? I was judging myself, and I was like really hard on myself. And because of that, like, it affected my, like, not only my relationship with myself, but my relationship with others, because other people would tell me like, you know, wow, you're really harsh. The things you say are like really harsh. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't even say half the things I think in my mind, right? So many people can relate to that. But the truth is that that's how you stay stuck. You know what I mean? Continue to judge yourself. Continue to cut off the flow of life. You know, continue to tell yourself that you're a failure instead of using everything as an experience to truly propel you to where you want to go. Continue to, you know, like when something doesn't work out for you, to play the victim, to say that it's everyone else's fault or that the universe just must not want you to have this, right? Like, we have like a duty pretty much when we're here to go deep. And like, when I say go deep, it's not living so automatic responsey, right? Or when we do have an automatic response, like paying attention to how everything makes us feel, you know? And there's a difference between, and like this came to me today, there's a difference between how something makes you feel because it's so pure of love that it scares your ego. You know, there's a difference between that type of feeling, and that's driven by your ego to keep you small and to keep you stuck. But if you have a thought that's keeping you stuck and keeping you small, and you don't address it, you know, you don't look at it for what it is. Sorry, I'm getting the hiccups. You don't look at it for what it is. You don't question it and go deeper. Then you're never going to know where that thought came from. Like, never. And a lot of people just don't realize how many of other people's thoughts are actually getting into their like mind. And it's not because like other people are like, you know, sending us things telepathically that could happen, but it's more of when we're younger, our brain is like absorbing everything that everyone says, you know, and so it uses it as our database on like how to perceive life. So once we get older and once we realize we are this unique individual, and once we realize that, you know, like to stand in our power means to stand on our own, right? To honor and like respect what other people think, but not live by what they think, because we have to be our own person and stand in our purpose. And our purpose is different than other people's. It just is, you know, especially the people that we grow up around. And that's just like life, right? Like it's life. So when we get to this point where we can actually stand here and say, okay, I'm standing in my power, you know, like I'm being as true to myself as I can. And I'm also listening not only to my thoughts, but to how I feel when I think these thoughts. And when I'm not paying attention to my thoughts and I start to feel funky, I go back and ask myself what I was thinking before that. What you'll realize is that most of the things that you're thinking are not your thoughts. They're the thoughts of other people you've grown up around. So I'll give you an example. For a long time, like I would just always feel like something was like kind of, you know, like life was so short. Like I just had this feeling like life's so short. I just need to enjoy it while I can, because like I'm gonna like die anyways. And like I was Christian back then, so I was like, the rapture is coming, you know, like there's no point for me to even get like comfortable here. There's no point for me to even like be safe, feel safe here, because there's nothing safe about this place, right? Like this is like pretty much like the worst place I felt like I could be. And that sounds like really depressing and really sad, but it's not in the way, like I wasn't thinking of like ending my life or anything. What I was truly believing was that, you know, like in the Bible, they talk about the rapture, and like, you know, I was like, if I get taken away, then everything I did here is for nothing. So I kind of had this feeling like life's kind of pointless. Not that it was like bad, like there are good things about life, but the good things that I was finding about life were outside of myself still. You know what I mean? So it was like chemicals, it was like, you know, eating or smoking or, you know, drinking or whatever. And I just knew that wasn't like everything, but this belief was inside me, this feeling was inside me. And like when I went to, you know, talk to, I think I was like talking to my dad said the same thing. He was just like, yeah, you know, like there's not like, he felt the same way. And when he told me that, I was like, duh, April, like that was never your thought. That was something that you like felt from your parents growing up and that stuck with you, but it's not yours. So you really have to question like what thoughts are coming up for you nonstop, and like question where they're coming from, question how they make you feel. And like this is a big thing, like Christianity like kind of like kept me from truly believing for a long time, until I just realized that that was like perceptions of other people, right? Was that like there was this idea that like pleasure was bad, right? And like if I was finding my joy, the only joy I had found at the time, because I wasn't going inside of myself, was outside of myself, you know? And I was just like, I don't think there's much joy here. But then I see all these people talking about like, you know, like doing what you love and like being able to do that. And every time I did something that I loved, I felt bad. You know, like every time I did something that like made me feel good, I felt bad, because of this idea that, you know, like pleasure was bad. And there's all this like Christianity stuff coming up with that. And like just, you know, I grew up in a Southern Baptist, so I don't know if you guys have ever like been to a Southern Baptist church before, but it's like very hellfire, brimstone. If it's not talking about like Jesus and getting baptized, it's very hellfire and brimstone type stuff. So, and that pretty much just means that like, you know, the wrath of God is going to come down upon you if you like do all these things. It's crazy. But I had like held on to these beliefs and like didn't realize until I started to step into my truth that like that's just not true. And it's not true for me, and it's not true for anyone. But however, the confusion here is that it is true if what you're finding to give you gratification comes from outside of yourself, right? So if it comes from a chemical, if it comes from a, you know, whatever, like drugs, alcohol, whatever, you know, a relationship, we can make relationships like siphon, like, you know, that energy from relationships even. If anything besides us becomes our point of joy, right, it's like we're giving that person power, or that relationship or whatever power over us, and we're forgetting who we are. So we're still stepping away from our truth. So what you have to realize is that you have to find what brings you joy. That's not like a food, it's not like a chemical, it's not a drug. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing when you find joy? You know what I mean? Like, who are you with? Like, what's going on around you? but also like, what does it do for you? Like, why does that bring you joy? And start understanding that. And once you start to change these ideas, once you start to follow this path of like, okay, you know, knowing that I want to be my own person, and that, you know, caring of what people think is like so stressful. Another theme that I had when I would care what people thought is that I would be like the rebellious one. So I would think like, oh, you know, I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what anyone says. I'm just going to do what I want. And so I would do what I wanted, right? But it was never because that's what I wanted. It was always out of rebellion. And it was always out of this idea of like, well, everyone else is doing this, so I'm going to do the opposite, right? Because I was like, I need to be different. Like, I need to do something different. And whereas like, yes, like having that contrast and that experience helped me. But when I was moving from that, like needing to be different to be special, right? Like I was actually getting away from myself again, right? Because the things that I wanted to do, if everyone else was doing it, I didn't feel safe. And if everyone else was doing it, then I felt like, you know, oh, that's obviously not what I'm meant to do because I'm just not like them. But that also kept me from things that I truly did want to do. You see what I'm saying? So it goes both ways. You have to look at like this from a wide perspective. You know, you have to look at it from a wide perspective of like, not only like how were you raised, you know, not only looking at the thoughts that you have, how those thoughts make you feel, but then you have to just start like truly believing that like what feels good to you, that's coming from within, right? Not coming from outside, but coming from within. That is your guidance. And that's where we've gone astray. That's where we've like started to misconstrue, you know, like pleasure with being something bad. Because truthfully, guys, like drugs and alcohol and all those things, like what we're searching for when we grab those things is we're searching to find like peace. You know what I mean? Like we're searching to like feel normal. And that's even like a conundrum in of itself. But we're just searching for happiness. You know what I mean? Like we're searching for that joy. And like, whereas all these other things may have brought us pain, this brought us joy. And so we have to like understand that, okay, if something outside of ourselves is bringing us joy, it's always going to fall short. That's why that's why we create these addictions. That's why these like patterns become like, we get more like aroused by like just, you know, completing a pattern than we do even like doing the actual thing that we're doing, like drinking or smoking or whatever. Because it's like a pattern that we've made important. It's a pattern that we've chose to get gratification from. And it's very empowering when you realize that, okay, no matter what, like I've chosen this. You know what I mean? No matter what, like this was my choice. And that's what like took me apart from everyone else, is that I realized that I can put my choice in other people and what they think. Or I can move my choice and I can have a choice of my own. Experience life how I experience it. But the biggest fear that I had was that, I told you before, like the biggest fear that I had was that I was going to like fall short or lead myself astray, right? Because they talk about that a lot in Christianity too. How, you know, like the self will lead you astray. Like, you know, like the self is like all about like sin and gluttony and all those things. But the truth is, guys, when you tune into like, when you start doing something like that, and you truly tune into the thoughts that lead to that action, and you truly tune into the feeling that you get when you're doing that. The truth is that you may get instant gratification, right? Like you may get instant gratification, you may get drunk, you may get high, you may, you know, like have your little food coma or whatever. But after that, like once you try to go to sleep or once you wake up the next morning, you don't have that same gratification or that same feeling. And the reason is because you found it outside of yourself and it was only instant gratification. And it's not like, truthfully, deep down, like there's a sadness there. There's like a depression there. There's like a deep wound there that you're trying to cover up that will surface up after the fact. And that's why it becomes an addictive pattern, because those feelings don't go away until we choose to look at them. You know, those feelings don't go away until we choose to look at them and shift them just a little bit every time they come up for us. And that's the difference between leading yourself astray and actually stepping into your power and trusting that joy is actually guiding you and trusting that your joy is taking you exactly where you need to be. I also talked about this the other day. It's like when you're experiencing joy, you're as close to your spirit guides, your spirit guides, your spirit team as you can be. You know, because you're literally like raising your vibration. Like joy is a very high vibration. It's like it's higher than happiness, you know? And so it's like when you're truly following your joy, when you're making time for your joy, you're getting not only closer to spirit, God, whatever, your spirit team, but you're also like stepping into your truth, right? And finding a truth there. And what comes up for a lot of people there is like, well, you know, like I find joy from something that's not monetary. It's not going to make me money. I can't do it, right? Like there are a lot of limiting beliefs around what we can and can't do. And so when that happens, you have to go back to what I said before about like, whose voice is this, you know, and you have to dig deep. Why do I think this? Well, my mom used to say it all the time. Why does your mom think this? Well, my mom, you know, like didn't have a job that she loved, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why does that matter to you? Well, I don't want to make my mom wrong. You know, like I don't want to make my mom wrong. I don't want to like make her jealous. I don't want to make her unhappy. And then you start to see why like this idea of caring too much about other people, how it literally latches on to every single thing that you do, right? And whereas like, yes, you need to have a reverence for people, right? Like you need to have a respect for people, or respect for how they feel, or respect for what they're going through. If that person keeps you from like stepping into your destiny, if that person keeps you from experiencing joy, if that person is like hindering you, even your idea of that person hindering you, right? You have to step aside and you have to do the work that's there, because truthfully, you're just like you're projecting your fears, your emotions onto them to stay small, right? And then you're no longer scared of being like small, right? Because that's comfortable for you. Then you like realize that my fear isn't being small. My fear is being like magnificent. Like my fear is like being amazing. And all the things that, you know, happen to other people that I saw being amazing, and I'm scared that that's going to happen. And then you have to go into those stories and figure those things out. But the truth of the matter is, guys, is like the way I want to close this, and what I think is so important is that no matter what you choose, right? Like no matter where you are in life, when you're in your truth, no one can make you mad even if they tried. No one can make you mad even if they tried. No one could take you out of your joy once you fully understood yourself, once you fully embodied yourself, and once you recognize how truthful and how honest you actually are, and how genuine and how loving you actually are. All these other aspects of ourselves are learned. They're not true, right? They're learned from people. They're learned from experiences. They're learned from, you know, heartbreaks and like I don't know, like when you're a kid and you started crying for no reason, whatever, you know, embarrassment, whatever. But the truth of the matter is like we are the ones who hold on to those feelings. We're the ones who hold on to those beliefs. We're the ones that choose to keep believing that. And when you make it your priority to make joy a priority, to make your happiness a priority, and that doesn't mean to like, you know, like I said, it's not chasing anything outside of you. It's truly just coming to peace with what's coming up for you and doing your part to shift it. You know, if we stop blaming and judging other people for why we're not who we want to be, then we start to see like how much power we truly have, and how much of their, you know, what we're projecting onto them is like a protection mechanism for ourselves, because we don't feel safe going to the next level. We don't feel safe stepping out and being exactly who we are. And once we look at why and we start to go deeper, you start to realize that it's all of this like caring about what other people think, you know? And it may not at first look like caring about what other people think, you know? Like at first when I was like, you know, in high school and was just like bored out of my mind and wanted to see what like something silly was, you know? And it would be something so silly that's not even who I am. But I wanted to do it because I was like feeling different. Like I liked feeling different. I liked being the like rebellious person, right? But that's not who I was. That was the role that I was playing. So that because I thought that role gave me gratification, right? The role gave me gratification, not like what I was doing, not the thoughts that led up to it, not the feeling afterwards, just that role, right? Because I had such a distrust of like what my actual joy was. I didn't believe that my joy was going to bring me peace or happiness. I didn't believe that my joy would take me to where I wanted to go. I thought it would take me the exact opposite. So there's so many things here like that I talked about, but I just want you to understand like when it comes to like caring what people think, most of the time the people who care the most what people think will pretend like they don't care at all. It's a defense mechanism, you know, like I don't want anyone to know that I care about this, so I'm just not going to say anything, or I'm just not going to be this person anymore. And the truth of the matter is like, it doesn't matter if you're like standing there saying you don't care what other people think. If you're not happy, if what you're doing isn't bringing joy, continual joy, like long-lasting joy, not an addicting type of joy, not like something that you have to keep going back to when the negative feelings come up, but like a continual joy, that joy heals. Seriously, it heals. Because you're stepping into your purpose, and all those things, like as you experience that joy, you're literally raising your vibration. And from raising your vibration, you're actually saying all those things that are below your vibration are no longer important anymore, right? Because you're experiencing joy. That's why so many people who are entrepreneurs, they get tripped up because there are all these things they think they ought to do or should do. When really, when you're an entrepreneur, all you're really doing is trying to express yourself as clearly as possible. You know, like all you're trying to do is like literally getting paid to be you, getting paid to like share your gift with the world, getting paid to like be exactly who you want to be. So the truth, you'll never find the truth outside of yourself. You can have people who help you find the truth. You can have people who help you, you know, get to understand yourself more. But it's never going to be like what you're thinking. It's never going to be about actually like looking at other people and them telling you what to do. You know, it's never going to, that you're not going to find joy there. And you may find people who are like understanding of you and who are supportive of you. But what you'll start to realize is that then their voice kind of gets stuck in your head. You know, like then their beliefs and ideas start to get infused into you. And if they're, you know, if they're higher than you, better than you, then that's great. Right? But what happens when you reach that potential, right? You've unlocked those codes, you've gotten that potential, but you don't have the understanding of who you are and what your soul wants to do. You're left with this gap. And usually that gap will literally just slingshot back to like wherever your medium is, wherever your median is, wherever your, you know, like your baseline energy is. And so that's why so many people talk about energy. That's why so many people talk about understanding yourself. But the truth is, guys, the truth is that you have all the answers inside of you. Seriously, like you have all the answers inside of you. All the answers to all the fears you have are inside of you. All the answers to all of the chaos or whatever that's causing your life are inside of you. So long as you keep asking people outside of you, you'll get what's best for them. You know what I mean? You'll get what they think is the best idea. But that's why I offer spirit guide readings, because like I'm not tapping into like what I think in a reading. I'm literally channeling the messages from your guides in that reading. You know, I'm not telling you what I think is the best idea for you. I'm literally getting the energy from all your spirit guides and then just giving that energy form for you. But truthfully, that energy that I'm tapping into is inside of you. So that's the biggest thing here, you know, like when we're growing up, like we have to depend so much on other people that we just forget that once we're grown, you know, like once we are so unhappy and all these things are going wrong, we forget that it's time for us to like do the work. It's time for us to pull back all the layers that other people, you know, that we accepted from other people. And we have to start looking at it for what it actually is and choosing our truth daily. You know, that's why people create affirmations. That's why people talk about like energetic work and tapping and stuff like that, is because you have to have a baseline understanding of who you are to understand like where you're meant to go, and even to understand your joy. Let me see. Do your spirit guide readings help us get in touch with our guides? Yeah, Danelle. So I tell you like what your gifts are. I tell you like how your guides connect with you. But right now I'm actually running a spirit guide masterclass that does that better. So if you want to know the spirit guide masterclass, definitely let me know. But truthfully, like I said before, like all of those answers are inside of you. Like the spirit guide masterclass is literally teaching you how to go within, you know, and like get those answers for yourself and understand yourself more deeply every day. And so like what I like to tell people is it's a mixture of mindset work and like faith, truly is what it is. It's a mixture of mindset work and spirit communication, because you have to have a clear channel, right? You have to have a clear channel to like comprehend and to get to that place where you're no longer lying to yourself. I was like listening to Abraham Hicks, and like I absolutely love listening to them. And they were like, Abraham, what happens, like what about the things that come out of nowhere? And they're like, nothing comes out of nowhere. Like those things that come out of nowhere come out of the oblivious. They don't come out of nowhere. And what she's saying is that like, it doesn't matter if something doesn't get your attention. If you're not paying attention, it will seem like things are happening to you, right? Because you're not paying attention to the most important person in the room, which is you, right? Like the most important person, which is your soul, which is like right at your diaphragm, your breath, you know, like you're not taking the time to breathe. You're not taking the time to enjoy like everything this world has to offer, right? And it all starts inside of you, right? So it's like, I tell people too, it's like some people think their guides are outside of them, you know, and I'm like, you can feel your guide's energy outside of you. And where we're at right now, they're definitely separate from us. But truthfully, our guides are more connected to us than anyone else ever. They're the closest to ourselves on this earth that we can get because they're truly guiding us for our highest good. You see what I'm saying? Like they're a part of us. All the messages that I receive from my guides, I feel in my body. You know what I mean? Like I rarely ever hear things outside of myself. It's all internal. Because what it is, it's an inner knowing. You know what I mean? And it's getting closer to knowing yourself. And first you have to peel back the layers that, you know, other people have either like put on you with your understanding or with your consent or just like without even thinking about it. And that's what the oblivious part comes into. You know, like listen to what the people around you are saying and how that makes you feel. And do you just go along with it to like make them happy, or do you like mentally tell yourself like that's not true for me? That's like the biggest thing. If I were to tell you that's like a game changer, is like the affirmation for like that's not true for me, right? Because you're honoring what that person is saying. You're honoring the perspective that they're coming from, because we're all here to come from our own perspectives. We're all here to learn like our own lessons. But the truth is that when you say that that's not true for me, you're telling your mind, your subconscious mind, the thing that is like taking all this information in and never forgets it, that that's not important. You're telling your subconscious mind that rule does not apply to us. And so for a lot of people, it's just that we've been listening to other people so long that it's like we forget that the things that they're saying to us, our subconscious mind is listening to. And it's like we have to be the person that's like, nope, like setting boundaries. That's not true for me is a boundary. Right? It says, hey, if you believe that, that's fine. But that, like, the vibration of what you just said is not going to get in my energy. And then the things that you do think that are true for you, that are keeping you stuck and that are holding you back, then you have to do the work. Like, where did this come from? Like, what is this trying to show me, teach me? You know, and if the answer that you get doesn't make you feel alive, doesn't make you feel at peace, doesn't make you feel whole, then you have to go deeper. Because the truth of the matter is that once you get to the bottom of whatever, like the root of what's causing you to feel the way that you feel, there's power there. There's like power in hitting that bottom. And that way you can propel up and you know where you want to go from there because you've understood. You've understood the part that you played, you've understood the part that other people played, and you took your power back in that moment. So that's the most important thing, guys, is like doing the work. You know, like our minds can be deceiving, but our like soul connects with us through our emotions, you know, and we have to be cognizant of what's our higher self talking, what's our ego talking. And you do that by digging and peeling back the layers and going deep and understanding why. It's all a journey, right? It's like all a journey. And that's what I wanted to segue into, you guys. I have a special surprise for you. So I just started my Spirit Guide Masterclass. It starts in 4 days. If you want to get into it, go ahead. Like, super excited about it. There's no longer pre-sale prices. There's the $275 you get the reading, and you'll get the reading in that for free, but only till June 1st. So I think today's the last day to get it. So if you want to get the reading, it's $275. If you want to get the course without the reading, or the course with the reading, it's $350 starting tomorrow. And there's only 3 more days until it starts. It starts June 3rd. We're going to get all into spirit communication, how to connect with your guides, how to like ask them specific questions, how to trust yourself, and then even how to use your guides in the manifesting process, right? So it's going to be so good. It's going to be 4 weeks of just like meditations and intentions and journal prompts and everything. However, after that, I want to do another course, and it's called The Journey Within. So this course, The Journey Within, is all going to be about like truly peeling back those layers, doing that inner work, you know, like truly finding our power and like who we are, what we choose, and who we desire to be, like who is our higher self calling us to be. And like peeling back the layers to find that not outside of ourselves, right? Not on Facebook, not from what I'm doing, not from what, you know, not from that, from within. Finding that purpose from within, peeling back those layers. It's going to be a journaling course, basically. Like, I may do a couple of videos in there, but mainly it's just going to be journaling prompts that like ask you questions that get you to think. And whenever you give me an answer, I'm going to ask you why. And I want you to just get this in your head. Like, you're literally going to be doing deep, deep work. I'm going to show you how to tap so you can tap through the emotional stuff that may be a little hard. I'm going to talk to you about how I journal, and like it'll just be amazing journal prompts from there. And it'll also be like helping you to like uncover like who you truly are, because we have all these layers that other people have kind of like put on us and that we've allowed them to put on us, right? Like we've allowed these other people to guide us and lead us. And we're all just so unhappy doing that. Like we're all finding ourselves like so lost after listening to other people. It's kind of like when I joined the military. I knew I was meant to be there, but the reason why I joined is because other people told me to, and I got the job that I got because other people told me I should. And so where the military was a great experience, like the job I hated. And I'm like, why do I hate this job so much? And I'm like, well, duh, April, because everyone said you ought to do it. And you know you hate science. You know you don't like doing medical stuff. You know you're not interested in this, right? So that's just something that we all have to go through. Let me see. So will you help us work through the journaling, or is it providing the prompts? I'll help you work through the journaling. Like if you put what your answers are and they're not clear enough, like I'll ask you leading questions, but I'm not going to do the work for you, right? Like I'm not going to tell you, oh, you need to talk about this. No, this is more of literally a journey within that. It's like all up to you. It's all self-led. It's all self like done. It's just when you put your prompts in and when you tell me what came up for you, I'm going to ask you why. And I'm going to ask you like how that makes you feel. And I'm going to ask you what your truth is from that place, right? And I'm going to focus on making pleasure and joy like a necessity, you know, and something that you cultivate from within, not from without. So I'm super excited about the course, but with this, I'm going to hop off because I need to drink something. I'm super thirsty and get on some work. So I hope you guys love this video, because honestly, like I think it's just like so from the heart, and like my spirit team was just like, you have to talk about this. People don't see you in this way, and you know you used to be this way. And so I was just like, okay, I'll talk about it. So, and I think it's the perfect segue into like the Journey Within course that I want to create. I'll probably be launching it around like mid-June to July. But seriously, guys, watch out for it. It's going to be amazing. It's life-changing how much power you have in questions and even how you frame the questions. So I'm not just going to show you how to ask yourself questions. I'm going to show you how to go deep, how to like discover your truth, and how to separate other people's stuff from yours. Okay, I like that. So actually working through the issue prompted by the journaling. Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's not going to be like issue based. It's just going to be peeling back the layers, because it's all going to start with a desire. So it's all going to start with a desire of like figuring out what it is that you love and how to bring more of that into your life. But then peeling back all the doubts and all the fears and all the things that come from that. So that's why I call it the journey within, because truthfully what you're doing is you're like kind of like, I describe like blocks to be kind of like these I don't know, kind of like crime scene tape that's like around your soul. Think about it almost as like a corset that you have around your soul. And it's like you have to unbutton it one at a time, right? But if you don't unbutton a corset all the way, what happens? It locks back in. And so it's the same with this course. It's like you have to fully unbutton and release that. Like you have to fully unbutton and release every single button, or you're still going to be constricted. So we're going to go through all that stuff in the course. But I'm going to hop off here. I love you guys. If you're interested, let me know. I can set up a little PayPal thing. I don't know any like cost or anything like that yet, but I will let you guys go. Much love. Bye.